Captain Daeho Kim was sitting in his small apartment in Seoul, drinking his morning coffee when the sky went dark. The coffee cup was halfway to his lips when he looked out the window and saw something that made him forget about everything else. Giant ships were floating above the city, blocking out the morning sun like huge metal clouds. The ships were not like anything humans had ever built. They were smooth and curved like drops of water frozen in the air. Blue lights pulsed along their sides like slow heartbeats. The lights were beautiful, but also strange, making Daeho feel uncomfortable in a way he could not explain. His phone started ringing with emergency alerts. The television automatically switched to breaking news showing the same incredible sight happening all over the world. Tokyo, London, New York, Moscow, every major city on Earth had these giant ships hanging above them like sleeping giants. Daeho was a military man. He had served in the Korean Navy for 15 years and had seen many things that most people never see, but nothing had prepared him for this. He grabbed his uniform and rushed to the military base, where chaos was already spreading like wildfire at the same time in the coastal city of Busan. Young scientist Heron Park was in her laboratory studying samples from the deep ocean. She was one of the smartest people in Korea, specializing in searching for signs of life beyond Earth. For years she had been looking at the stars through powerful telescopes, hoping to find proof that humans were not alone in the universe. When the alarm started blaring in her lab, Heron looked up from her microscope to see her colleagues running around in panic. Someone turned on the news and she saw the ships floating above Seoul. Her heart started beating faster, but not from fear, from excitement and curiosity. These were not human ships. She could tell immediately from their design and the way they moved so smoothly through the air without making any sound. Human aircraft were loud and clumsy compared to these elegant vessels, but something about them made her feel worried, even though she could not understand why. The ship stayed silent for exactly 3 hours while the whole world watched and waited. Military jets from different countries tried to get close, but the alien ships had some kind of invisible barrier that pushed the human aircraft away without damaging them. It was like the aliens were saying, "We are not here to fight, but we are also not going away." Then, at exactly noon in every time zone around the world, the ships began to glow brighter. The blue lights became almost white, and suddenly every television, radio, and computer screen on Earth showed the same image. A tall figure that looked almost human, but not quite right. The being was beautiful in a strange way, standing about 7 feet tall with pale skin that seemed to glow softly from within. Its eyes were large and changed color from blue to green to silver like the surface of the ocean. Its hair was white as snow and moved gently as if it was underwater, even though there was no wind when it spoke. Its voice came through every speaker on Earth, speaking in perfect Korean to Korea, perfect English to America, perfect Japanese to Japan. It knew every human language perfectly. People of Earth, it said with a voice that sounded like music mixed with thunder, "We are the protectors. We have traveled across the vast darkness of space to reach your beautiful world. We have been watching you for a long time, and we have come to help you." Being smiled, and its smile was warm and kind, making many humans feel safe. For the first time since the ships had appeared, we know that your world faces many dangers. Some come from the emptiness of space, where terrible things drift between the stars. Some dangers come from within your own planet. We are here to protect you from all of these threats. In Seoul, Captain Daeho was watching this broadcast with his military commanders. Everyone in the room was tense and suspicious. They were trained to look for threats, and something about this felt wrong, even though the aliens seemed friendly. Why would advanced beings from space care about protecting Earth? What did they want in return? The alien continued speaking. "Your world is precious beyond measure. It holds life in countless forms, from the smallest creatures in your oceans to the great forests that cover your lands. You have built amazing cities and created beautiful art and music, but you also face challenges that could destroy everything you have built. We have the power to help you solve these problems. We can heal your sick, teach you new ways to grow food, clean your polluted air and water. We can show you technologies that will make your lives easier and happier. All we ask in return is that you allow us to watch over you and keep you safe." In her laboratory, Heron was recording everything and taking notes. She noticed that the alien never said exactly what these dangers were, what was so threatening that humanity needed protection from advanced aliens. And why did they care so much about a planet full of strangers? The alien raised its hand and suddenly the screens around the world showed images of the alien ships. The ships were even more massive than they had appeared from the ground. Each one was like a floating city with gardens and buildings visible through transparent sections. We have built homes above your major cities, the alien explained. From these places we will watch and protect you. Our technology will help heal your world, and our wisdom will guide you toward a better future. You are no longer alone in the universe, you are under our protection. Now, when the broadcast ended, the world leaders immediately began trying to contact the aliens. Some countries wanted to attack the ships, while others wanted to welcome the protectors with open arms. But the aliens only responded to peaceful approaches. They would speak with diplomats and scientists, but ignored all military threats. Within days, meetings were arranged between human leaders and the protectors. The alien who had made the broadcast introduced himself as Commander Veltar. He was patient and kind, answering many questions about his people and their technology. But Hayren noticed something strange when she watched recordings of these meetings. Every time a human asked what exactly they were being protected from, Commander Veltar would smile and change the subject. He would talk about how dangerous space could be or how humans sometimes made poor decisions, but he never gave specific details about any actual threats. Dr. Sungmin Lee, who worked with Hayren, thought she was being too suspicious. The aliens were already helping humanity. They had started cleaning pollution from the oceans and sharing medicines that could cure diseases that had killed millions of people. Their technology was making life better for everyone, but Hayren could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. She had spent her whole life studying the universe and searching for alien life. Now that aliens had finally come to Earth, she felt more worried than excited. Why would beings with such advanced technology care so much about protecting a primitive planet like Earth? That night, while the rest of the world celebrated their new alien friends, Hayren stayed in her laboratory. She began using her equipment to study the alien ships in detail. What she found in those first scans would eventually change everything, but for now she just felt a growing sense of unease. The protectors had promised to guard Earth from all dangers, but they had never explained what those dangers actually were, and Hayren was beginning to suspect that the biggest danger to Earth might be the protectors themselves. The breakthrough came 2 weeks later when Ji-woo successfully broke into one of the main protector data storage systems. She had been working 18 hours a day trying different approaches to crack their security. The alien computers were unlike anything humans had ever built, but Ji-woo was stubborn and brilliant. She refused to give up even when the task seemed impossible. What she found in the alien files made everyone in the Seoul investigation group feel sick to their stomachs. The protectors had detailed records about Earth going back over 100 years. They had been watching and studying human civilization since before the First World War. They had seen humans develop electricity cars, airplanes, computers, and nuclear weapons. The aliens had also been watching humans fight 2 world wars, kill millions of people, and genocides, pollute the oceans, cut down forests, and build weapons that could destroy all life on Earth. To the protectors, humans looked like a species that was smart enough to be dangerous, but too violent and short-sighted to be trusted with advanced technology. The files contained something called the Earth Management Protocol, which was a step-by-step plan for dealing with what the aliens called the human problem. The protocol had been used successfully on 12 other worlds where intelligent species had developed technology faster than wisdom phase. One was called trust building. The aliens would arrive offering help and gifts. They would solve some of the species' problems and make their lives better. This phase was designed to make the native population grateful and dependent on alien help. Most humans had fallen for this completely. Phase 2 was called authority integration. The aliens would slowly take control of the planet's governments and military forces. They would do this by becoming advisors and then gradually taking over decision-making. The files showed that this phase was already beginning on Earth. Several world leaders were now following protector advice on major policy decisions. Phase 3 was the most terrifying part. It was called population management. The aliens would decide how many members of the species were needed and what jobs they would do. The useful ones would be kept as workers, servants, and breeding stock. The rest would be eliminated through what the files politely called efficiency. Measures Dr. Yunji studied the military sections of the files while the others looked at population data. The protectors had detailed plans for dealing with human resistance. They had weapons that could disable entire cities without destroying the buildings. They had mind control technology that could make humans obey orders without question. They even had something called selective elimination beams that could target specific genetic types, but the most shocking discovery was in the historical records. The protectors had not always been the advanced, peaceful species they pretended to be. Their own homeworld had been managed by an even more advanced alien race thousands of years ago. The protectors had originally been the managed species until they found a way to overthrow their controllers. Now they traveled the galaxy doing to other species exactly what had been done to them. They believed they were saving primitive species from destroying themselves, but they were really just continuing a cycle of control and domination that had been going on for millions of years. Shirin realized that the protectors' scanning technology was not just collecting data about Earth, it was looking for specific things that would help them implement the management protocol. They were mapping human genetic diversity to decide which traits to preserve. They were studying human psychology to find the best ways to control large populations. They were analyzing human technology to identify potential weapons or resistance tools. The files also revealed something that gave the Soul investigation group their first real hope. The protectors were not as powerful as they seemed. Their technology was very old and had not been updated in thousands of years. They relied on the same methods they had used on all the previous worlds because those methods had always worked before. More importantly, the aliens had never faced serious resistance from a managed species. All 12 previous worlds had been at much lower technology levels. When the protectors arrived, none of them had nuclear weapons, computer networks, or global communication systems. The protectors were not prepared for a species that could fight back with advanced weapons and coordinated resistance. Seiji Wu discovered that the protector computer systems had a major weakness. They were based on biological technology that could be infected with specially designed viruses, just like human computers could be attacked with malware. The alien systems could be disrupted with biological agents that attacked their living circuits. Boram found evidence that resistance groups were forming in other countries around the world. The files showed that some humans in Russia, China, and the United States had also discovered the truth about the management protocol. Small groups of scientists, soldiers, and hackers were secretly working to find ways to fight back. The Soul investigation group realized they needed to contact these other resistance cells and coordinate their efforts, but they also knew that time was running out. The files showed that Phase 3 was scheduled to begin in less than 6 months. The protectors were just waiting for a few more government leaders to accept their authority before moving to population management. Dr. Yunji proposed a plan that was dangerous, but might be their only chance. They would need to get someone close enough to the protector command systems to plant Jiwu biological virus. The virus would spread through the alien computer networks and disable their ships and weapons. The problem was that only a few humans had access to protector technology. Captain Deho was one of the few people allowed on the alien ships, but he was always closely watched. Commander Veltar had become suspicious of human activities and was monitoring all interactions with protector personnel. Herin suggested they create a distraction that would force the aliens to focus their attention elsewhere. If resistance groups around the world began small attacks on protector facilities at the same time, it might give Deho the opportunity he needed to plant the virus. The plan required perfect timing and coordination between resistance cells that had never met each other. It also required them to risk exposing themselves to the aliens before they were ready for a full confrontation, but the alternative was waiting until Phase 3 began and millions of humans were eliminated. Boram began sending coded messages to resistance groups in other countries using old radio frequencies that the protectors seemed to ignore. The messages were disguised as weather reports and shipping schedules, but they contained instructions for coordinated attacks on alien scanning stations. Jiwu worked on perfecting her biological virus. She needed something that would spread quickly through protector systems but would not harm human technology. The virus had to be hidden inside something that the aliens would accept without suspicion. Dr. Yunji studied Protector military tactics and identified the best targets for resistance attacks. She found that the aliens had several critical vulnerabilities, including their reliance on centralized command systems and their assumption that humans would never work together. Effectively prepared for what might be a suicide mission, he would have only one chance to get close to the Protector main computer core. If he was caught, the aliens would know that humans had discovered their true plans, and Phase 3 might begin immediately. As the day of the operation approached, each member of the Soul Investigation Group knew they were about to change the course of human history. Either they would strike the first blow in a war for human freedom, or they would die trying. The Protectors had spent over a century planning to manage Earth, but they had made one crucial mistake. They had underestimated what humans would do when they discovered that their protectors were really their future oppressors. The aliens were about to learn that some species would rather fight and die free than live safely as slaves. The truth had been revealed, and now it was time to act on it. The war for Earth was about to begin. 3 months had passed since the protectors arrived, and the world looked like a completely different place. The alien ships still floated above every major city, but now they seemed like friendly guardians instead of threatening invaders. The blue lights that pulsed along their hulls had become as familiar as streetlights to most humans. The changes the protectors brought were amazing. Children who had been dying from cancer were now healthy and playing in parks again. Farmers in Africa were growing crops in deserts that had been barren for centuries. The oceans that had been filled with plastic and pollution were becoming crystal clear. The air in cities like Beijing and Los Angeles was cleaner than it had been in decades. Most humans were grateful and happy. They called the aliens their saviors and built monuments to honor their arrival. World leaders praised Commander Veltar in speeches, and the alien appeared on talk shows where hosts asked him easy questions about Protector culture and technology. Everyone seemed to love their new alien friends, but not everyone was satisfied with the surface answers. In her laboratory in Bisenherin Park had been working day and night studying the alien ships with every instrument she could get her hands on. What she discovered made her stomach feel sick with worry. The ships were not just floating peacefully above the cities. They were constantly scanning everything below them. Every person, every animal, every plant, every building was being recorded and analyzed by the alien technology. The scans were so detailed that they could count the number of bacteria in a drop of seawater, or track the movement of a single ant across a garden. The protectors were not just watching Earth, they were cataloging every living thing on the planet. Thyren tried to share her findings with other scientists, but most of them told her she was being paranoid. Dr. Su-Min Lee, who had been her friend and colleague for years, became angry when she showed him the scan data. "Why are you looking for problems?" he asked her while they stood in the university cafeteria. "The aliens are helping us. They have solved more of our problems in 3 months than we solved in the last 3 decades. Maybe they need to scan things to understand how to help us better." But Herin could not accept that explanation. If the aliens just wanted to help, why did they need such detailed information about every living creature, and why did they never give straight answers when humans asked about the dangers they were supposedly protecting Earth from? She decided she needed help from someone who understood military thinking and strategy, so she reached out to Captain Daeho Kim, who had become the official human liaison with the protectors. He was one of the few people who got to spend time on the alien ships and talk directly with Commander Veltar. They met in a small coffee shop in the Gangnam district, where the noise of traffic and conversation would make it hard for anyone to overhear them. Daeho looked tired and worried, which surprised Herin because the newspapers always showed him smiling next to the alien commander. "I have been asking Commander Veltar the same questions for weeks," Daeho told her in a quiet voice. "Every time I ask what specific threats they are protecting us from, he gives me vague answers about cosmic dangers and hostile forces in space. When I push for details, he just smiles and changes the subject." Theorin showed him her scanned data on her laptop. The readings showed that the alien ships were not just passively observing, they were actively probing human technology, computer networks, and even the brains of people who got close to the ships. "This is not protection," Herin whispered. "This is investigation. They are studying us like we are specimens in a laboratory." Their conversation was interrupted when a young woman approached their table. She was small and nervous-looking with short black hair and thick glasses. She introduced herself as Jiwoo Choi, a computer programmer who worked for one of the big technology companies in Seoul. "I have been listening to your conversation," she said, looking around nervously. "I think you need to know what I found. I've been trying to understand the alien computer systems, not to cause trouble, but just to learn how they work." Jiwoo pulled out her own laptop and showed them files she had managed to copy from Protector data systems. The files were mostly in alien language, but some parts had been translated into human languages. What they revealed was terrifying. The aliens were not just scanning and recording everything on Earth, they were categorizing it all according to some kind of system. Every human was being given a classification code based on their intelligence, physical health, genetic traits, and what the aliens called usefulness potential. Look at this. Jiwoo pointed to a section of data that showed human population statistics. The aliens have divided all of humanity into different categories. Some are marked as essential specimens, others as standard population, and some as excess units. Taeho felt his blood turn cold. Essential specimens sounded like the aliens were planning to keep some humans like valuable animals in a zoo. Standard population suggested most people would be managed somehow. And excess units sounded like people the aliens did not think were worth keeping at all. The three of them sat in silence for several minutes trying to process what this meant. Finally, Haerin spoke up. "We need more people," she said. "People who can help us understand what the Protectors are really planning. We need someone who understands military strategy and someone who can help us communicate with other humans around the world without the aliens detecting our messages." Taeho knew exactly who they needed. Dr. Yoonji Kang was a brilliant military strategist who had been quietly studying Protector technology and tactics. She had been asking the same uncomfortable questions that were keeping Taeho awake at night. They also recruited Bo Ram, Shin, a communications expert who worked for the Korean broadcasting system. She had noticed that alien ships seemed to intercept and monitor all human communications, even the ones that were supposed to be encrypted and secure. When the five of them met the next week in the basement of an old church in Hongdae, they felt like they were starting something dangerous but necessary. They called themselves the Seoul Investigation Group, but they all knew they were really the beginning of a resistance movement. Bo-ram had managed to intercept some alien communications using equipment she had borrowed from the broadcasting station. What she found confirmed their worst fears. The Protectors were not talking about protecting Earth from asteroids or hostile alien races. They were discussing something they called the Human Management Project. The aliens had been watching Earth for over 100 years, studying human behavior and development. They had seen humans fight wars, develop nuclear weapons, and damage their environment. To the Protectors, humans were like children who had found matches and were playing with them in a room full of gasoline. "We are classified as a Stage 4 threat species," Bo-ram explained to the group. "That means we are intelligent enough to be dangerous, but not wise enough to be trusted. The Protectors have dealt with 12 other worlds that had Stage 4 species. What happened to those other worlds?" Rin asked, even though she was afraid to hear the answer. Bo-ram looked at the alien communication records. Some were successfully managed, meaning their populations were reduced and controlled. Others were completely cleansed. When they proved too difficult to handle, the room went silent as everyone realized what this meant. The Protectors had not come to Earth to help humanity. They had come to decide whether humans deserved to survive, and in what numbers. Jiwoo was the first to speak again, her voice shaking. "We have to warn people. We have to let the world know what is really happening." But Taeho shook his head. "If we reveal what we know too quickly, the Protectors might decide we are too dangerous to manage. They might move directly to the cleansing option." Yoonji had been studying the alien tactical information. "We need to be smart about this," she said. "The Protectors are powerful, but they are not invincible. They have weaknesses, and they are not expecting humans to resist because all the other worlds they managed were too primitive to fight back." The Seoul Investigation Group began planning their next moves. They would need to gather more evidence, find ways to communicate with other humans around the world, and discover the Protectors' weaknesses, but most importantly, they needed to do all of this without alerting the aliens to their activities. As they left the church that night, each member of the group knew their lives had changed forever. They were no longer just humans living under alien protection. They were the first members of a resistance movement that would either save humanity or get them all killed, the protectors had promised to guard Earth from cosmic threats, but the Soul Investigation Group was beginning to understand that Earth's greatest threat might be its self-appointed guardians. Operation Freedom Day began at exactly midnight Greenwich Mean Time, when resistance cells in London struck the first blow against Protector scanning stations. David Barrett and his team used modified construction equipment to destroy 3 alien monitoring posts before the Protectors could respond. The attacks were small, but they sent a clear message that humans were no longer willing to be passive subjects within minutes. Similar attacks began happening around the world in Tokyo. Kenji Tanaka team used electromagnetic pulse devices to disable Protector communication arrays, and the Snow Paulo Ana Silva launched cyber attacks against alien computer networks in Moscow. Former military officers led coordinated strikes against Protector supply depots, but the most important part of Operation Freedom Day was happening in Seoul, where Captain Daeho was preparing to board the main Protector command ship. He carried a simple gift container filled with traditional Korean fermented foods that contained Jiwoo biological virus. Hidden inside the beneficial bacteria was a weapon that could cripple the entire alien fleet. Commander Veltar greeted Daeho at the ship docking bay with his usual musical voice and color-changing eyes, but something was different about the alien commander today. His eyes were flashing red more frequently, which the resistance had learned was a sign of stress or anger. Captain Kim, the alien said as they walked through the ship's corridors, we have detected unusual activities on your planet. Computer systems are being accessed without authorization. Radio frequencies are being used for unauthorized communications. Some of your people seem to be organizing resistance to our protection. Daeho kept his face calm even though his heart was racing. If Veltar suspected the truth about the resistance, the mission would be over before it started. I've heard rumors about some conspiracy groups, he said carefully. You know how humans are, we have always been suspicious of authority, even when that authority is trying to help us. The alien commander seemed to accept this explanation, but he led Daeho through a different route than usual. They passed through sections of the ship that Daeho had never seen before, including what looked like holding cells filled with humans who were supposedly volunteers for scientific studies. These individuals are helping us understand human biology and psychology, Veltar explained when he noticed Daeho staring at the prisoners. They volunteered to participate in our research programs. Their sacrifice will help us create better management protocols for your species. Ho recognized some of the faces in the cells. They were scientists, politicians, and military officers who had disappeared over the past few months, people who had been asking too many questions about Protector activities. The volunteers were really prisoners, and the research was really preparation for population management. When they reached the ship's biological computer core, Daeho was amazed by what he saw. The entire room was filled with living machinery that pulsed and glowed like a giant heart. Organic cables connected different sections, and strange fluids flowed through transparent tubes. The alien technology was beautiful but also deeply disturbing. This is the heart of our ship, Veltar said proudly. From here we can coordinate all Protector activities on Earth and communicate with our forces on other worlds. Soon we will use this system to implement the final phase of our management protocol. Daeho pulled out the container of fermented foods and offered it to the alien commander. I brought this as a gift, he said. Our scientists thought you might find the bacterial cultures interesting for your research. Veltar accepted the gift graciously and began opening the container, but as soon as the seal was broken, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, and the alien biological computers began making distress sounds like injured animals. Biological contamination detected, a voice announced throughout the ship. Hostile organisms identified. Initiating emergency containment protocols. The virus had been detected too quickly. Daeho's plan was failing, and he knew he had only seconds before Protector guards would arrive to arrest or eliminate him. But he had prepared for this possibility and pulled out a small radio transmitter that Bo-Ram had given him. Now he shouted into the device around the world. Resistance cells that had been waiting for this signal immediately began the second phase of Operation Freedom Day. Hayrin activated radio transmitters that sent disruptive frequencies toward Protector ships. Jiwoo launched cyber attacks Against alien computer networks, Dr. Yunji coordinated military strikes against Protector ground facilities. The simultaneous attacks caught the aliens completely off guard. They had never faced coordinated resistance from a managed species before. Their standard protocols assumed that native populations would remain passive and grateful for Protector guidance. In Seoul, Protector guards surrounded Daeho, but he was not finished fighting. He had spent months studying alien technology and had prepared several surprises for this moment. He pulled out a device that Jiwoo had built using salvaged Protector components and activated it. The device sent a feedback pulse through the ship, biological systems causing temporary paralysis in the organic computers. Lights flickered and gravity fluctuated as the alien technology struggled to cope with the unexpected attack. Voltar's eyes turned completely red as he realized that his human liaison had been working against him all along. "You do not understand what you are doing," he said, his musical voice now harsh and angry. "Without our protection, your species will destroy itself and threaten the entire galaxy." Daeho faced the alien commander without fear. "Maybe we will make mistakes," he said, "but we will make them as free beings, not as managed livestock. If Earth needs protection, we will protect it ourselves." The fighting spread quickly from the command ship to the surface as human military forces around the world began attacking Protector installations. The aliens had superior technology, but they were not prepared for the fury of a species fighting for its survival. Human pilots flew suicide missions against alien shields. Soldiers used improvised weapons to attack Protector ground forces. Computer experts launched virus attacks against alien systems. Even ordinary citizens joined the fight using whatever weapons they could find. The Protectors tried to respond with their standard pacification protocols, but nothing worked. The way it was supposed to. Their mind control technology was disrupted by the radio jamming. Their selective elimination beams were blocked by clouds of metallic chaff that human aircraft scattered in the atmosphere. HFY biological virus was spreading through Protector computer networks despite being detected early. The alien biological systems had no immunity to the specially designed infection, and entire ships began losing power and falling from the Skybo. RAM broadcast went out to every human on Earth over emergency frequencies, explaining what the Protectors really planned and calling for total resistance. The message was simple but powerful. The aliens are not here to protect us. They are here to manage us like farm animals. Fight back while you still can. The broadcast reached not only Earth, but also the other worlds where Protectors had established management protocols. On planets where populations had been controlled for decades, rebellions began as managed humans learned that resistance was possible. Tar realized that his carefully planned management protocol was collapsing. The biological virus was spreading too quickly to contain human resistance. Was more organized and effective than any Protector simulation had predicted, and worst of all, the uprising was inspiring rebellion on other managed worlds. For the first time in thousands of years, the Protector Empire was facing a coordinated multi-world rebellion. The aliens who had spent millennia managing other species were discovering what it felt like to be challenged by their supposed inferiors. The battle for Earth had begun, and humanity was fighting with everything it had. The Protectors had promised to guard Earth from cosmic threats, but they had never imagined that Earth's greatest defenders would be the humans they had come to manage. Operation Freedom Day was only the beginning. The real war for human freedom was just starting. The war that followed Operation Freedom Day lasted only 72 hours, but those 3 days changed the course of galactic history. The fighting was unlike anything the Protectors had ever experienced in their thousands of years of managing primitive worlds. They had expected easy victory against a species they considered barely civilized, but humans proved to be far more dangerous and resourceful than any previous managed species. The biological virus that Jiwoo had created spread through Protector fleets faster than the aliens could contain it. Ship after ship lost power and crashed into oceans or fell burning from the sky. The alien biological computers that had seemed so advanced proved to be fatally vulnerable to human ingenuity. On the ground, human forces used tactics that the Protectors had never seen before. Dr. Yunji had studied every piece of alien military data the Resistance could find, and she used that knowledge to turn Protector technology against itself. Human soldiers learned to hide in ways that confused alien scanners. They used the Protector's own shields as weapons by overloading them with feedback from modified radio transmitters. The most effective human weapons were not guns or missiles, but ideas and determination. News of the uprising spread to every corner of Earth through BORUM emergency broadcasts. People who had never thought about resisting their alien protectors suddenly realized they were really prisoners waiting to be eliminated in Beijing. Factory workers used industrial equipment to destroy protector monitoring stations in Mumbai. Computer programmers launched coordinated cyber attacks against alien data systems. In Cairo, teachers and students built improvised weapons from classroom materials and fought protector security forces in the streets. But the real turning point came when Herin made a broadcast that reached not only every human on Earth but also every protector ship in the solar system and beyond. Her message was carried by hijacked alien communication networks to dozens of other worlds where the protectors had established management protocols. You came to our world saying you would protect us, she said, looking directly into the camera while explosions lit up the sky behind her. You told us we needed guardians because we were too dangerous to be trusted with our own planet. You said we would destroy ourselves without your wise guidance. She paused, letting her words sink in to audiences across the galaxy. We have problems. Yes, we make mistakes. We fight wars. We damage our environment. We sometimes do terrible things to each other, but we also love and create and help each other. We learn from our failures and we try to do better. The broadcast was being watched by billions of humans and thousands of aliens. Many of the protectors were seeing organized resistance for the first time in their long lives. They had become so used to easy victories that they had forgotten what real opposition looked like. You never asked us if we wanted your protection, Herin continued. You decided for us that we were too primitive to govern ourselves. You planned to eliminate most of our people and manage the rest like animals in a zoo, but you made one crucial mistake. You underestimated what humans will do when we discover that our protectors are really our oppressors. Words reached the managed populations on other worlds where protector control had seemed absolute for decades or even centuries. These beings had accepted alien rule because they believed resistance was impossible. But hearing about human success inspired them to fight back. On the water world of Aquaria, fish-like beings who had been managed for 300 years began sabotaging protector underwater facilities on the desert planet Kalos. Reptilian creatures destroyed alien mining operations that had been stripping their world of resources. On the forest world, Verdania, plant-based intelligences used their natural abilities to overwhelm protector biological systems. Commander Veltar found himself fighting a war on multiple fronts as rebellions erupted across the protector empire. His forces were stretched thin trying to contain uprisings on 17 different worlds. The carefully maintained order that had existed for millennia was collapsing in a matter of days. The alien commander sent one final message to Earth from his damaged flagship as protector forces prepared to retreat. You do not understand the dangers that exist in this galaxy, he said, his musical voice now filled with what sounded like genuine sadness. There are forces out there that will destroy you if you are not protected. We have seen worlds consumed by cosmic horrors and species that devour entire civilizations. Captain Deho, who had escaped from the Protector command ship during the chaos of the battle, responded with words that would be remembered across the galaxy for generations. Maybe we will face those dangers, he said. Maybe we will make mistakes and maybe some of us will die. But we will face whatever comes as free beings making our own choices, not as protected prisoners in a cosmic zoo. If Earth needs guardians, we will guard it ourselves. We will make our own decisions about what threats to face and how to face them. We will succeed or fail based on our own choices, not on the choices others make for us. Freedom is worth more than safety, especially when that safety comes at the cost of everything that makes life worth living. The protector ships began leaving Earth orbit one by one. Some went to other worlds to try to maintain control over remaining managed populations. Others simply disappeared into deep space, their biological computers too damaged to function properly. A few alien commanders requested permission to stay on Earth as refugees, claiming they no longer believed in the management protocols they had spent their lives enforcing. As the last protector ship vanished from Earth skies. Hayrin stood with her companions in Seoul, watching the sun rise without alien vessels blocking its light. The city was damaged from 3 days of fighting, but it was free. The resistance network they had built had become a global liberation movement. We are not perfect, she said quietly to the small group that had started everything, but we are free. And maybe that is more important than being perfectly safe under someone else's control. Ji-woo was already working on new computer programs designed to help Earth defend itself against future threats. We proved we can fight, she said with a tired but satisfied smile. Now we need to prove we can govern ourselves wisely. Dr. Yoonji was studying reports from around the world about the aftermath of the uprising. The protectors are gone, but they were right about one thing, she said. There are real dangers in space. We need to be ready to face them ourselves. Bahram was coordinating with resistance leaders on other worlds who wanted to form some kind of alliance between newly freed species. We are not alone anymore, she reported. Many worlds are interested in working together to defend against future threats. The age of protector management was ending, but the age of free cooperation between intelligent species was just beginning. Earth had shown the galaxy that being advanced did not always mean being wise, and that sometimes the best protection came from those who refused to be protected. In the months and years that followed, Earth would face many challenges. Some came from space, as Veltar had warned. Others came from the difficult task of learning to work together as a free planet, but every challenge was met by beings who had chosen their own path rather than accepting the choices others made for them. The protectors had promised to guard Earth from cosmic dangers and alien threats, but Earth's real guardians turned out to be the humans who refused to let anyone else decide their fate. The greatest protection came not from being guarded by others, but from being free enough to guard themselves. Humanity had asked a simple question: guard Earth from what? And in finding the answer, they had discovered something more valuable than protection. They had found the courage to be responsible for their own destiny in a universe full of wonders and dangers. Earth belonged to humans, and humans had proven they would keep it that way. The resistance network grew faster than anyone had expected. Within 3 weeks of BORAM sending her first coded messages, responses came from 27 different countries. Scientists, soldiers, computer experts, and military officers around the world had been asking the same dangerous questions about their alien protectors. In Tokyo, a group led by physicist Kenji Tanaka had discovered that protector ships were collecting genetic samples from Japanese citizens during their medical examinations. In London, former military intelligence officer David Barrett had found evidence that the aliens were testing new forms of mind control technology on volunteers. In São Paulo, computer expert Ana Silva had intercepted communications about something called specimen harvesting, but it was the Seoul investigation group that made the most important discovery about protector weaknesses. Rin had been studying the alien technology for months, trying to understand how their ships and weapons worked. What she found surprised everyone. The protectors are not as advanced as they want us to believe, she explained to the growing resistance network during a secret video conference. The alien ships were massive and impressive, but they were also extremely old. Some of the technology dated back thousands of years. The aliens had never needed to innovate or improve their systems because the same old methods had worked on every world they had managed. They arrived with overwhelming force, gained the trust of the native population, and then slowly took control. Nobody had ever fought back successfully, so the protectors had become lazy and overconfident. Wu had been studying the biological computer systems that ran the alien ships. She discovered that these living machines were actually more vulnerable than traditional electronic computers. A specially designed virus could spread through their organic circuits, like a disease infecting every connected system. The biological computers are like a giant brain, she told the resistance leaders. If we can make that brain sick, we can disable their entire fleet. The problem is getting close enough to their main systems to introduce the virus. Dr. Yoonji had been working with resistance cells in other countries to map protector defenses. The aliens had powerful shields and weapons, but their tactics were predictable. They always responded to threats in the same way, because the same responses had always worked before. Bahram discovered something even more encouraging. The protectors were not just managing Earth, they were also dealing with problems on other worlds. Some of the previously managed planets were experiencing uprisings as news of human resistance spread through their hidden communication networks. The aliens are fighting on multiple fronts, she reported during one of their secret meetings. They have ships and troops tied up dealing with rebellions on at least 4 other worlds. That means they cannot bring their full force to bear on Earth if we start a coordinated uprising. The resistance began planning Operation Freedom Day, a simultaneous attack on protector facilities around the world. The plan was complex and dangerous, but it was their best chance to strike before Phase 3 began. Each resistance cell would target specific alien installations while Deho attempted to plant the virus in the main. Command Ship Captain Deho had been preparing for his mission by gaining Commander Veltar trust. He had become more cooperative and enthusiastic about protector plans, asking detailed questions about alien technology and expressing interest in human-alien cooperation. The alien commander seemed pleased that his human liaison was finally seeing the wisdom of protector guidance. During one of their meetings, Veltar made a comment that chilled Deho to the bone. "We are almost ready to begin the final phase of Earth integration," the alien said with his strange, musical voice. "Your species has proven more adaptable than most, but there are still too many individuals who resist progress. Some population adjustment will be necessary." Deho managed to keep his expression neutral while his heart pounded with fear and anger. Population adjustment was clearly alien code for mass murder. He asked carefully how many humans the protectors thought Earth could support in the long term. Veltar studied him with those color-changing eyes. "Perhaps 10% of your current numbers," he said casually. "The rest consume too many resources and contribute too little value. A managed population of 700 million humans will be much more efficient and sustainable. 700 million out of 8 billion people. That meant the protectors were planning to eliminate over 7 billion human beings. Deho had to use every bit of his military training to keep from attacking the alien commander right there in the ship meeting room. Meanwhile, Ji-woo had perfected her biological virus and found the perfect delivery system. Korean fermented foods like kimchi and doenjang contained beneficial bacteria that the protectors had expressed scientific interest in. The aliens wanted to study Earth fermentation processes to improve their own food production systems. The virus would be hidden inside harmless kimchi bacteria. When introduced to protector biological systems, it would spread rapidly through their living computers, causing system failures and communication breakdowns. The aliens would not detect the threat until it was too late to stop the infection. Herin had been working on a backup plan in case the virus attack failed. She had discovered that protector shields had a specific frequency that could be disrupted using modified human radio transmitters. If resistance groups around the world broadcast on the right frequencies at the same time, they could create holes in the alien defenses. Dr. Dunji coordinated the military aspects of Operation Freedom Day. Each resistance cell received detailed instructions about their targets and timing. The attacks had to happen simultaneously to prevent the protectors from adapting their defenses or calling for reinforcements from other worlds. Baram prepared broadcast equipment that would allow them to send messages to every human on Earth when the operation began. The resistance had written a simple message explaining what the protectors really planned and calling for all humans to resist alien control. The night before Operation Freedom Day, the Seoul investigation group met one final time in the basement of the old church. They all knew that some of them might not survive the next 24 hours, but they also knew that doing nothing meant certain death for most of humanity. Deho would carry the virus onto the Protector command ship disguised as a gift of traditional Korean foods. If he was caught, the mission would fail and he would probably be eliminated immediately, but if he succeeded, the virus might disable enough alien systems to give human forces a fighting chance. Herin and Ji-woo would coordinate the technical aspects of the global attack, making sure that radio jamming and computer infiltration happened at exactly the right moments. Dr. Yoonji would direct military operations while Bioram handled communications between resistance cells. As they prepared to leave the church for what might be the last time, Herin spoke the words that would become the motto of the human resistance: "We did not ask to be protected, and we will not accept being managed. Earth belongs to humans, and we will keep it that way." The Seoul Investigation Group had started as 5 worried people asking uncomfortable questions. Now they were part of a global movement that was about to challenge the most powerful force the galaxy had ever known. The protectors had managed 12 worlds successfully, but they had never faced anything like humanity when it decided to fight for its freedom. The aliens were about to learn that some species would rather die standing up than live on their knees. Tomorrow would determine whether humans remained free or became just another managed population in the Protector Empire. Operation Freedom Day was about to begin, and the future of Earth hung in the balance.